Hey y'all, and welcome back to Tabspace. So, it is almost Halloween. What day is it? Today's the 28th. Halloween is in 2 days. Am I right about that, or is it in 3 days? Shoot. Hold on, cause let me fact check myself before we even go any further here. Halloween is 3 days away, so I figure what better time than now to talk about why we choose to be scared either around this time of year or year round, like based off of psychology. So, for me, scary movies and haunted houses have always been entertaining to me. It's been like that for years, ever since I was like, I want to say, I was in middle school when I started going to haunted houses. So I always loved that, pumpkin patches, all that. I used to watch scary movies and laugh during the scary parts. Don't think I'm crazy. I don't know how many of y'all were there or how many of y'all don't, but that said, it's what I used to do. Um, I also used to walk through the haunted houses, and my friends would always be like holding on to me or like expecting me to like be kind of like their safety. And I was there to offer that as well. I loved being, the one that, yeah, I got you, I ain't scared, we got this. But I soon learned to regret that decision because you get just, like thrown around one good time at a haunted house by somebody trying to hide themselves from getting attacked. And you're like, this job is not for the faint of heart nor the weak. Um, so yeah, I have always kind of looked at those types of fears as something to laugh at. And maybe it's like a nervous laugh. You know how sometimes people laugh so they don't cry. Maybe that's what it was. I don't know. I just know at one point I laughed at it. Now I'm not too big into like certain horror things. I do still enjoy true crime and stuff like that, but like haunted houses, scary movies, I'm not really going out of my way for that at this point in my life right now. But that said, I don't discourage it for anybody else just because of my personal opinions towards it. Um, so I know that at that time of my life, I was not alone in that, and I'm still not alone in having been there because a lot of people enjoy scary movies. A lot of people enjoy going to haunted houses and getting a good fright for entertainment. Um, there's an article in on this website called Penlive, Penlive or PenLive.com. It's one of the two. Um, but talks about how Halloween attractions company America Haunts estimates Americans spend upward of $500 million annually on haunted house entrance fees simply for the privilege of being frightened. And lots of these fright fans don't limit their horror entertainment to spooky season, gorging Halloween movies, horror movies, shows, and books all year long. At the end of the day, people like that stuff year round. Me personally, this is the way I look at it, and the article doesn't really talk about this, but this is the way I look at it, and anything that I'm about to say right now is about to be my opinion. I'm not any authority. I'm not any authority whatsoever to tell y'all that this is what it is. But for me, I feel like wanting to be scared and finding comfort in horror, for me, I feel like it's come from a place of like trying to, outscare my fears or trying to desensitize myself to a certain type of trauma. Um, Especially because it's like when you've been through a certain amount of trauma, you almost want to control where the trauma comes from. You know what I mean? You might freak out more in a situation that's not so hectic, but not freak out when a situation is hectic or would be traumatic to somebody else because you're almost desensitized to that and less to the day-to-day nuanced stuff that happens. But Anyway, when you think about that idea that people spend $500 million annually on haunted house entrance fees and people like to be scared year round, why seek manufactured fear for entertainment when the world already offers real terror in such large quantities? Every day, something happens in the news that's terrible. Every day, something messed up happens in America, across the country. Somewhere, something bad happens. And we have no control over that. And that stuff is actually very terrifying. But a scary movie, however, not happening. I have control over it. I could turn the movie off. I can walk out of a haunted house if I want to and not finish. You know what I mean? Like, creating fear in otherwise safe lives can be enjoyable and is a way for people to practice and prepare for real life dangers. Controlled fear experiences where you can click your remote, close the book, or walk out of a haunted house whether you want whenever you want, offer the psychological high that fear triggers without any of the risk. So you get adrenaline, you get all these different things going off in your brain when you get scared. So that said, if you can have that mental high or whatever you want to call it from the adrenaline and all these other chemicals that go off when you're scared and not actually have to endure something scary, your brain and your body, it's like the thrill of getting on a roller coaster. You get that adrenaline rush, you get all of this, but at the end of the day, it should be a safe place where you don't have to worry about losing your life to the roller coaster. Just like when you go to a haunted house, you don't have to worry about losing your life from the people with the chainsaws or the people that are chasing you around or popping up behind you saying, brah, or, none of that. So, I can see how being immersed in something that normally would scare you can help you face your fears, although it doesn't offer the reality of the situation where you can actually face the fear head on. So, yeah, you're getting a bit of practice, but in the back of your head you can leave it, and that you don't have that comfort or luxury when a real terrifying situation happens in real life. So it's like the plus and the minus to it. On the plus side, yeah, we're practicing, but we're practicing and we know that this is practice, that this is not real life. So when that real thing happens, your reaction might be completely different than the one that you're having at that haunted house. If you were to really encounter a person chasing you with a chainsaw, I don't think you would be laughing or, you know what I mean? Like looking at this situation like, all right, come on, bro. Like, you're going to have a different demeanor towards the situation, and your fight or flight might be completely different. You might sit there and freeze and not know what to do if that real situation were to occur. You would hope that your fight and flight would kick in and you would remember when I was in this situation in fake life, I would have ran or I would have done this or that, but you don't really have that. You don't get the luxury of actually getting to play out the scenario as you would normally. Like, you don't usually have enough room to run or to do all of these things in an actual haunted house. So when you perceive yourself under threat, adrenaline surges into your body and the evolutionary fight or flight response is activated. Your heart rate increases, you breathe deeper and faster, and your blood pressure goes up. Your body is preparing to defend itself against danger to get away as fast as possible. This physical reaction is crucial when facing a real threat. When experiencing controlled fear like jump scares on a TV show, on a zombie TV show, you get to enjoy this energized sensation similar to a runner's high without any risks. And then once the threat is dealt with, your body releases the neurotransmitter dopamines, which provide sensations of pleasure and relief. So, all the fun, none of the risk. you would hope. In one study, researchers found that people who visited a high intensity haunted house as a controlled fear experience displayed less brain activity in response to stimuli, less anxiety post exposure. Wait, as a controlled fear experience displayed less brain activity in response to stimuli and less anxiety. Okay, so you faced your fear a little bit, so I could see where it's lowering some of your anxiety. And what this stuff does is it does desensitize you to a certain extent. So, like, yes, you are not really experiencing it, but you are getting desensitized to a certain extent to where you may be a little bit more prepared than somebody that has never been through a haunted house. Although you have not gotten to really play out the scenario, you might be more prepared than somebody that's never been through something like that. I'm not going to tell you that that's not possible. And I'm not going to tell you that that type of situation won't make you feel less anxiety either. Because facing fears is a very important step to overcoming anxiety a lot of the time. So an essential motivation for human beings is a sense of being a part of a social group. Going through intense fear experiences together strengthens the bonds between individuals. If you go through your haunted house with your friends, y'all might become closer. I would hope that y'all would have enjoyed the experience to become at least a little bit closer. But also, after experiencing something scary with somebody or just going through like some real life stuff, you get closer with a person. In one study, researchers found that people who visited high intensity haunted houses, oh, my bad, y'all. An essential motivation for human beings is belonging to a social group, so going through intense fear experiences together strengthens the bonds between individuals. Being scared with a group of friends can make you feel closer to those people, as getting through any hardship with a person can strengthen your bond. One of the people that wrote on the article said, I'm a volunteer firefighter, and the unique connection created through sharing intense threats such as entering a burning building together manifests in deep emotional bonds with my colleagues. After a significant fire call, we often note the improved morale and camaraderie of the firehouse. I feel a flood of positive emotions anytime I think of my firefighting partners, even when the events occurred months or years ago. So, I can completely see how that will create a bond that's unbreakable, because nobody could ever, no one can replace those experiences that you have with that person. No one can replace going through a burning building, making sure that you're good, like, y'all making sure each other are good. Like, it creates this situational awareness and this understanding, like, yeah, you gonna stick it out with me. You're not going to leave me for dead, and I'm not going to leave you. Controlled fear experiences artificially create similar opportunities for bonding. Exposure to stress triggers not only the fight or flight response, but in many situations, it also initiates what psychologists call tend and befriend system. A perceived threat prompts humans to tend to offspring and create social emotional bonds for protection and comfort. This system is largely regulated by the so-called love hormone oxytocin. Sorry, y'all. I be having a moment. So, y'all remember at the beginning when I said I like to be the person that kind of, comforted my friends and was there for my friends and consoled them and let them know, like, we good, we got this, like, we had each other's backs. That's where that comes from. I'm a protector at heart, regardless of my size, my stature, or any of those other things. I'm just that type of person. If I care about you, if you're down and out, you're going through it, you're too drunk to function, anything is going on, I'm going to protect you and make sure you're good. So that plays out when I'm in a scary situation with a person that might be more scared than I am. I'm gonna comfort, and that probably comes from that oxytocin being um, released from that tend and befriend system. See, I'm trying to, you feel me? I'm trying to make it all come together. So that comes from the need. Yeah, I just explained that to y'all. So the tend and befriend reaction is particularly likely when you experience stress around others whom you have already established positive social connections. When you encounter stressors within your social network, your oxytocin levels rise to initiate social coping strategies. As a result, when you navigate recreational fear experience like a haunted house with your friend, you are setting an emotional stage to feel bonded with the people beside you. So, basically, what I was explaining, an ounce of prevention equals a pound of cure. Controlled fear experiences can also be a way for you to prepare for the worst. Think of the early days of COVID-19 pandemic when the films Contagion and Outbreak trended on all streaming platforms as people around the world sheltered at home by watching the threat scenarios play out in a controlled way through social media or through media, I'm sorry. You can learn about your fears and emotionally prepare for future threats. So yeah, if there's a movie out about something that you're experiencing real time, like that example, I know a lot of people were watching these movies to figure out like what the heck do we do? How do we avoid spreading this stuff and how do we protect ourselves? Um it is helpful to be able to look back to something and be like, oh, this happened, this played out in this scenario this way. Maybe it's not going to be like the movie, maybe it will be like the movie, but what are we going to do? That can bring you comfort. So that's where the scary movies and the haunted houses start to make you more prepared for real life. Because if it's happening in a movie, you would think that the person is trying to draw whatever conclusion they can from their perception of what that event would be like, or they got the idea from an actual event that already happened, which is more than likely. Um, but anyway, so for example, researchers at Aarhus, I think it's Aarhus, I'm not too sure, University Recreational Fear Lab in Denmark demonstrated in one study that people who regularly consumed horror media were more psychologically resilient during the COVID-19 pandemic than non-horror films. Non-horror fans, my bad. That makes sense. The scientists suggest that this resilience might be a result of the kind of training these fans went through. They practiced coping with the fear, the anxiety provoked by their preferred form of entertainment, and as a result, they were better prepared to manage their real fear triggered by the pandemic. Makes perfect sense. Honestly, if you've already processed something, because like when you watch a movie, you do feel some, well, if it depends on what kind of person you are, but I feel some sort of empathetic um wave over me whenever I watch anything. It doesn't matter what it is. TV, movie, real, like a live video, it doesn't matter. If it's something that's heavy, I'ma feel it. So if you're already feeling what you're seeing, you're not having to go from firsthand, oh my God, the shock. Because shock can slow you down to the point where you don't deal with the issue. It can freeze you. While I agree with this article, I encourage people to not only face your fears, but also understand them. Understand where your fears come from. Are they coming from a real place? Or are they coming from an unrealistic place? And then go from there with it. And I also understand that not everybody is able to consume these types of things. Not everybody has that ability to stomach certain things that are maybe scary or may indicate evil to people. So I don't want to make this and have the people that don't feel comfortable doing these things feel as though they're excluded or as though I disagree with that standpoint, because I'm gonna be honest, my standpoint is changing to where I don't want to immerse myself in so much of that. The scary movies that like I've seen it all at this point. I've seen a lot of it. I've coped with it. I've processed it. And to me, a lot of it, it's not for me. That's not to say it's not for anybody, but it's not for me. And if it's not for you, don't ever let somebody make you feel like you're scary, you're puss, you're this, you're that. Just keep it pushing. Do what you got to do, cuz being an empathetic person, that's why I'm kind of steering away from it myself. I don't want to put myself in a position where I'm getting like my heart hurts for something that I don't necessarily need my heart to hurt for, if that makes sense. But that said, if you are a horror movie if you're a horror movie lover, if you're a fan, I want you to tell me your favorite horror movies in the comments. And also tell me your favorite haunted houses, since it's about to be Halloween. Thank y'all for tuning into Tabspace, and I will see y'all in my next video. Bye.